rich. Yeah, well, I'll see you tomorrow then. How may I help you?
You can start by wiping that f***ing dumbass smile off your rosy cheeks. Then you can give me a f***ing automobile, a f***ing Datsun, a f***ing Toyota, a f***ing Mustang, a f***ing Buick.
I really don't care for the way you're speaking to me.
And I really don't care for the way your company left me in the middle of f***ing nowhere with f***ing keys to a f***ing car that isn't f***ing there.
Those aren't pillows. If you've ever seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, that line probably made you laugh just now. But this 1987 comedy is more than just jokes and awkward situations. It's a holiday tradition, a story about unlikely friendship, and John Hughes' most heartfelt movie. But what most people don't know is that the chaos on screen wasn't just acting. The film itself had a chaotic, sometimes bizarre production filled with misadventures, lost footage, and hilarious accidents. The journey to make the movie was almost as wild as Neil and Del's trip across America. Today, we're unpacking 25 strange but true facts about planes, trains, and automobiles. Let's start with the first 10.
What kind of plastic you carry?
I've got a Visa and a gasoline card. Well, I've got a Neiman Marcus card in case we want to buy a gift for someone.
Fact 1. A nightmare trip inspired the story. John Hughes didn't imagine this from scratch. He lived it. In the early 80s, he was flying from New York back home to Chicago. The trip should have been about 70 minutes. Instead, thanks to snowstorms and diversions, it took him 5 long days. His plane was rerouted from Chicago to Des Moines, then to Denver, and finally to Phoenix before he made it home. Hughes later said this travel nightmare stayed in his bones. When he sat down to write, he pounded out the first draft of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in just a few days. That real frustration became the heartbeat of Neil's misery in the film. Fact 2. Another director was supposed to lead. At first, Hughes wasn't even planning to direct the film himself. He had tapped Howard Deutsch, who directed Pretty in Pink, to take on the project. But then Steve Martin came on board, and Hughes realized this wasn't a movie he could hand off. It was too personal. He decided to sit in the director's chair himself. Fact 3. The script was a monster. Steve Martin was shocked when Hughes handed him the script. Instead of the usual 90 pages, this one was 145 pages long. And once the cameras rolled, Hughes shot enough to fill a movie almost 4 times longer than the finished cut. That first rough version ran 3 hours and 45 minutes. It included subplots, extra characters, and entire storylines that never made it to theaters. Fact 4. Hughes performed the entire movie. Hughes wasn't just a writer, he was a performer. Even before sharing the script, he once acted out the entire story to a publicist. Every character, every moment, voices and all. Imagine sitting down for a job interview and getting a one-man show instead of a pitch. That's how alive this movie was inside his head.
My wife likes me. My customers like me.
Fact 5. John Candy's hotel gym. John Candy, who played Del Griffith, brought a full set of exercise equipment with him during filming. He had treadmills, weights, and other machines delivered to his hotel. But here's the funny part. He never once used them. They sat untouched the whole time, a quirky detail that crew members still laugh about today. Fact 6. Chasing snow across America. Ironically, the one place where Hughes expected snow, Chicago, had none. The crew needed snowy backdrops, so they literally traveled around the country chasing storms. They moved production through Buffalo, Missouri, and Illinois just to find enough snow to shoot the film. In the process, they ended up living the movie's title, hopping between planes, trains, and automobiles to finish the job. Fact 7. A bit part turned into a house. Troy Evans was cast for a single line as a truck driver. Normally, that would be a one-day job, but because of endless production delays, he stayed on standby for nearly 51 days before he finally filmed his scene. That paycheck was big enough for him to put a down payment on his first house. For him, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was life-changing. Fact 8. The Queen of Improv. Edie McClurg, who played the car rental clerk, was told to just talk about Thanksgiving while on the phone. She improvised her entire routine on the spot, delivering almost a full minute of unscripted comedy. Her improv gave Steve Martin the perfect setup for one of the most infamous tirades in movie history. In just 60 seconds, he drops the F word 19 times, venting all of Neil's bottled-up rage at her cheery clerk. The result? The film was slapped with an R rating for that one scene alone. It remains one of the funniest improvised exchanges ever captured on film, proving that sometimes the best comedy isn't on the page, it's in the moment. Fact 9. Steve Martin said yes for 2 scenes. Steve Martin wasn't sure about joining until he read 2 particular scenes: the seat adjustment gag in the car and the infamous tirade at the rental counter. Those alone convinced him the film would work. And it's no wonder, between the awkward intimacy of "those aren't pillows" and the profanity-filled meltdown, those are 2 of the most iconic scenes in comedy history. Fact 10. Cameos you might have missed. The film has 2 blink and you'll miss it cameos. Kevin Bacon shows up during the taxi race scene, dashing across the screen for just seconds. And Michael McKean, later famous for Better Call Saul, plays a state trooper for less than 2 minutes. Despite the tiny role, McKean received 4th billing in the credits. Fact 11. A closer look at Kevin Bacon's strange cameo. Now, we just touched on the blink and you'll miss it cameos, but one of them deserves a closer look because it connects planes, trains, and automobiles to another John Hughes film in a surprisingly clever way. Let's dig into Kevin Bacon's moment. In the film's opening sequence, Neil Page battles for a cab on the streets of New York, and the man racing him to the taxi is none other than Kevin Bacon. The cameo lasts just seconds, but it's a clever Easter egg for Hughes fans. At the time, Bacon had just finished shooting She's Having a Baby, another John Hughes film that was released the following year. In fact, both movies even opened with the exact same scene, Bacon sprinting for a cab. It's one of Hughes's winks to his audience, a way of subtly connecting his films into a larger, unofficial universe. Hughes was known for reusing actors he trusted, and Bacon's cameo cemented that pattern. Though his appearance in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is fleeting, it linked his work in Hughes's teen-oriented dramas to this more adult, heartfelt comedy. For fans paying close attention, it was Hughes signaling that his world of characters was bigger than one movie at a time. It's no wonder that even today, cinephiles talk about Hughes's films almost like they're part of a shared Hughes-verse, and Kevin Bacon's dash across the sidewalk is one of the earliest examples of that idea. Fact 12. The strip club scene that disappeared. Believe it or not, Hughes actually filmed a strip club sequence for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. In this cut, Del and Neil ended up in yet another bizarre detour that added nothing to the story. Paramount executives axed the entire sequence in the edit room. Imagine the tonal whiplash. 1 minute they're arguing about a rental car, the next they're surrounded by neon lights and dancers. It would have broken the flow of the film, so it was wisely left on the cutting room floor. Fact 13. Elton John's theme song vanished. Elton John was reportedly hired to write and perform the movie's theme song. Contracts were drawn up and a recording session was planned, but then Paramount's lawyers clashed with Elton's record label over the rights. The deal collapsed and the song was scrapped. No recording has ever surfaced, leaving fans to wonder what an Elton John anthem for Neil and Del might have sounded like. Fact 14. Martin didn't know the camera was rolling. There's a quiet scene where Neil sits on the train, smiling to himself as he reflects on Del. Steve Martin didn't even realize the camera was running. He was simply lost in thought between takes. John Hughes loved the natural expression so much he left it in the film. That unplanned moment adds a layer of genuine tenderness you can feel on screen. Fact 15. Filming spanned multiple states. Although the story is set mainly between New York and Chicago, the production zigzagged across America. Scenes were shot in Batavia and South Dayton, New York, in St. Louis, Missouri, and in several Illinois towns including Woodstock, Braidwood, and Kankakee. This patchwork approach was another headache caused by the constant search for snow. Fact 16. Woodstock's movie legacy. Woodstock, Illinois has a special place in film history thanks to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The rental car scene where Neil walks across a frozen lot to face Edie McClurg was shot there. A few years later, location scouts remembered Woodstock's cinematic charm and chose it as the main backdrop for Groundhog Day. So in a strange way, Neil Page's miserable walk across that icy lot helped inspire one of the greatest comedies of the 90s. Fact 17. The Lost Bus Sing-Along. A deleted scene unearthed for the 4K edition shows Del leading the bus passengers in a cheerful rendition of 100 bottles of beer on the wall. The scene runs several minutes and captures Candy's infectious warmth, turning a long bus ride into an impromptu comedy concert. Fans waited decades before Paramount restored the scene for modern audiences. Fact 18. The Blabbermouth scene restored. Another gem restored in the 4K release is the Blabbermouth scene, where Neil explodes at Del for talking too much. The insult might sting, but the chemistry between Candy and Martin makes it hilarious rather than cruel. It's a short moment, but it adds to the love-hate rhythm that made their pairing unforgettable. Fact 19. Box office success on a modest budget. The film was made for $15 million, a standard budget for comedies of the time. It went on to gross $49.5 million in theaters, tripling its budget. While not a mega blockbuster, it was a steady success. More importantly, it has lived on as a Thanksgiving tradition, generating cultural value far beyond its ticket sales. Fact 20. A Thanksgiving classic that critics adored. When it debuted, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles wasn't marketed as a Thanksgiving movie, but audiences quickly adopted it as the go-to holiday comedy. Over time, critics elevated it as well. Roger Ebert included it in his Great Movies collection, calling it one of the warmest, funniest films of the decade. Fact 21. John Hughes' genre pivot. By 1987, John Hughes was the king of teen movies. 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off had cemented him as the voice of adolescence. But Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was his deliberate departure. Instead of teenagers, Hughes focused on two middle-aged men, tackling adult frustrations like work pressure, travel disasters, and loneliness. Critics noticed. They praised Hughes for proving he could handle deeper emotional storytelling while still keeping his comedic touch. Fact 22. Critical acclaim from day one. When Planes, Trains, and Automobiles premiered in November 1987, critics instantly recognized it as more than just another holiday comedy. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, the most influential critics of the time, both gave it their famous 2 thumbs up. Siskel went further, calling it John Candy's finest performance, praising how he balanced big laughs with surprising vulnerability. The Chicago Tribune highlighted the film's unique ability to weave broad physical comedy with moments of genuine pathos. Candy's Del Griffith wasn't just a punchline, he was a fully realized character, a lonely man hiding behind endless chatter and forced cheer. Steve Martin's Neil Page, meanwhile, captured the frustration and exhaustion of every weary business traveler. Unlike many comedies that had to wait years before being re-evaluated as classics, this one was recognized immediately as something special. Critics saw the humanity in it from the start, proving that Hughes had successfully stepped outside his teen movie comfort zone and delivered a holiday story with real staying power. Fact 23. Rotten Tomatoes keeps the legacy strong. Decades later, the numbers speak for themselves. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds a 93% critic rating and a B+ cinema score from audiences. For a comedy from the 1980s, that's remarkable staying power. It's rare for a film to feel both nostalgic and timeless, but this one still connects with new generations every Thanksgiving. Fact 24. The deleted marriage subplot. One of the biggest casualties of editing was an entire subplot involving Neil's wife, Susan. In the long cut, she begins to suspect Neil is lying about his travel problems and having an affair. Test audiences found it distracting, so Hughes cut the subplot completely. The decision kept the story tighter and more focused on Neil and Del, but it also explains why Susan looks so cold and suspicious in certain scenes, remnants of a storyline that no longer exists. Fact 25. Hidden money lessons beneath the laughs. A comedy about travel disasters might not seem like a financial fable, but Planes, Trains, and Automobiles sneaks in some practical wisdom. Neil's constant spending on bribes, taxis, motels, and failed reservations shows how quickly money evaporates under stress. Meanwhile, Del teaches a subtler lesson. Relationships and kindness are more valuable than cash. It's a film about priorities. What matters most isn't saving a few dollars, it's having someone by your side when life falls apart. Bonus fact, written in 6 hours. Here's one more strange gem. John Hughes wrote the first 60 pages of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in just 6 hours. That's how strongly this story poured out of him, fueled by memories of his own travel disaster. Most screenwriters spend weeks on an outline, but Hughes had a gift for capturing emotion in a white-hot burst of inspiration. So there you have it, 25 strange but true facts about planes, trains, and automobiles. We've traveled from John Hughes' nightmare trip that sparked the script, through endless snow-chasing productions, deleted strip clubs and sing-alongs, Elton John's lost theme song, and even an R rating earned in just one glorious minute of profanity. But beyond the trivia, this film endures because of its heart. It's not about travel delays or mismatched personalities. It's about empathy, patience, and finding friendship where you least expect it. John Candy's Del Griffith reminds us that behind every annoying stranger is a story we haven't heard. That's why, decades later, we still return to this film every Thanksgiving. We laugh, we cringe, and, if we're honest, we tear up a little when Neil finally invites Del home. Because sometimes the strangest facts about a movie aren't just in how it was made, they're in why it continues to matter. And as Del would say with a smile, I like me, my wife likes me, my customers like me, because I'm the real article.